Hey, it's Andy McKee, and you're watching Infogitara. All right.
And the first question, because many people are wondering, actually, we have a 21st century, and you somehow decided to play acoustic guitar instead of electric. And I know you were a Metallica fan, probably you still are. Mm-hmm. How does it happen?
Oh, man. Well, I guess it was, I think it was 1996 was the year that I just really discovered the acoustic guitar, the steel string acoustic guitar in a major sort of way. I was really listening to a lot of electric guitar stuff and playing a lot of electric guitar at that time, but I went to see an acoustic guitarist named Preston Reed, and he was using altered tunings and using the guitar body for percussive sounds and unusual techniques like tapping, on the acoustic guitar, which I'd never seen, and I just really fell in love with that style because when I was on the electric guitar, I was used to like learning guitar riffs and maybe learning guitar solos and things. But this sort of approach to guitar playing, you really try to cover all the aspects of music at once, and I really love that. Like trying to have rhythmic ideas and harmonic ideas and like melodic ideas too on top, all going on at the same time. It just was really attractive to me, and it seemed like that would be the best way for me to express myself as a musician. So that's where it happened.
And it's all started with drifting.
Yeah, well, in a big way, yeah. I wrote that song when I was about 18 or 19 years old. It was somewhere in there. And I had just gotten into the acoustic guitar, a couple years prior, but was really focused on that way of playing and was learning a lot of Preston Reed tunes. And Michael Hedges was a guy that I discovered too around that time. And so I used to sit in my room and try to learn their stuff, and then I eventually started to try to write my own. So anyway, drifting was one of the first ones I wrote almost 20 years ago. But 10 years ago, I put some videos on YouTube when that website was brand new, and so I put those on, and suddenly drifting in particular went viral, and really launched my career in a big way. And that's why I'm here in Poland. Like people saw me playing drifting on YouTube probably 10 years ago or whatever, and so it really changed my life in a big way. I was just a guitar teacher in a music store back in Kansas in the United States, but suddenly this YouTube thing, crazy.
Okay, do you have any idea how many guitars do you have?
I'm not positive, actually. I'm actually I'm not really a collector, but I've never really gotten rid of the guitars that I've bought over the years. So I don't go out and like look at nice guitars or things. I'm not really that kind of guy, but I still have like my first guitar and every guitar I've ever owned. So it's probably, I don't know, like between 20 and 30 guitars, maybe more, because I have more electric guitars now. I work with Ernie Ball for the guitar strings, and a really close friendship with that company, and so they've kind of given me a few guitars because they also do Music Man, so I have quite a few Music Man guitars now too. So I play those occasionally, too. I might get back into it more, but anyway, so I'm not even sure. It's probably close to 30 guitars, something like that.
What kind of guitars are you gonna use tonight?
Sure. Well, my main guitars that I've been touring with for quite a few years now, probably 8 years or so, they're made by a luthier in Montreal named Michael Greenfield. So that's Greenfield Guitars is the brand, and that's the G there. So greenfieldguitars.com if anybody'd like to check it out. But I'll be playing. This is my standard sort of guitar. It's standard pitch guitar, but it's got fan frets on it. Also some bevels like here and also here, just for more comfort when you're sitting there playing for hours, And the whole fan fret thing is to help with the intonation. I don't know if your viewers know much about the fan fret thing, but it's supposed to help with the intonation of the guitar. So whenever you play any of the frets on the neck, they're supposed to be more in tune than a standard guitar neck because if you think of the scale length on a harp, like the bass strings are longer and the treble strings are shorter. Same thing happens here because of the nut and the saddle are angled that way. So the scale length of my bass string is longer and they get shorter down to the first string. And then the frets have to be fanned out to compensate for that difference as well. So that's the whole idea behind it, is to help with the intonation. And this one's got a Macassar ebony back and sides on it. And installed is a K&K Pure Mini pickup. So it gets a nice natural sound for a pickup, you know. So I've been using that system for a long time. So that's what's in here. And then there's my baritone guitar is sitting over there. And anyway, it's a similar body shape, but it's a longer scale length. And it's tuned a fourth interval lower than a standard guitar. So it goes from B to B normally. So if you were to sit there and play an E major sort of shape, it would actually be B major on the baritone. And it's got the bevels as well, and the fan frets, all that stuff. And those are what I'm touring with right now. I also have a harp guitar that I've been touring with this year quite a bit. But unfortunately, on the last tour I did in the States, it started to develop a buzz sound. I think there was some wiring issue with the pickup that came loose in travel. And then when I was home, I was only home for about 5 days, and it was a holiday, so I had no time to get it repaired. So I don't have it with me in Poland this time, but next time I come back, I'll have to bring that with me. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Now let's discuss tunings. Do you even use standard tuning anymore?
Not really. On the on the standard guitar here, I don't have any songs that are in standard tuning. I have one that's in drop D, you know, which is quite close to standard, just the whole step down on the low string. But on the baritone guitar, I actually have a few songs that are standard intervals, but again, it's a fourth lower. But anyway, so that would be B, E, A, D, F sharp, B. But you can still do all your basic standard chords and things. So I've written a few tunes in that. So it's like standard, but on the baritone. But from there, though, I use a lot of different tunings. And for me, actually, it's really inspiring to use different tunings. For me, you're forced to sort of become an explorer in a way. You know, you have to find what kind of chords can I come up with in this new tuning, and what sort of melodic ideas are possible. All of that, you know, I like that. I find it sort of appealing, which is, you know, a lot of people would say that's just bizarre, it doesn't make any sense, but for me, I like that. And so it forces me to get creative, and it's inspiring when you have like a new tuning that you've never tried. It's like, oh wow, what can I come up with? So I end up using a lot of different tunings on my tours and stuff, so just always kind of changing them between the songs and talking a bit between the tunes and all that. But.
Because many people, I mean guitar players, they think that in standard tuning everything already has been played. Would you agree with that?
Well, maybe not. I mean, not everything. I'm sure there's still so much more music, you know, that could be done in the standard tuning, of course. You know, when you take into all the variables that music has, there's so much you can do. But I'm definitely tired of hearing like the same sort of chords, you know, a million times. At least for when I'm writing music, if I can't just play a C chord, it just sounds so boring to me. It's like, okay, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard G7. I've heard D, you know, A minor, all the standard sort of voicing. So I get drawn into, you know, minor sevenths and ninths and 11ths, and even the tunings start to reflect that, where my tunings will be minor 11ths and things, and then just go from there. So.
Because I would like also to ask you about the inspiration. How do you keep yourself inspired and creative? It's because of the tunings, how it works?
Well, a big part of that actually that I've really come to realize since I've become this sort of touring musician is I need time to work on things like that. I can't, I've noticed just with me being on the road so much, it's been really difficult to write new music, and so I'm going to be taking many months off next year to finish composing a new album and recording it. I've got dozens of little fragments of ideas that just need to be fleshed out. So I think it's, for me anyway, and maybe for some of the people watching this, you know, it's something to keep in mind is that you have to make time for that creativity and inspiration. You can't really slam your head against the wall. You know, if it's not there, you can take a break. You know, and sometimes you just need that break to feel inspired. So.
Let's talk about the songwriting process. It's always starts with what? There's a melodic idea, or?
Yeah, it usually starts with the tuning. You know, a lot of times I'll come up with a new one or discover one that I haven't tried before, that someone else has done, and I'll begin to play around with it. And so, and I'll just, you know, see what I can do and what kind of ideas are coming. And so I'll come up with maybe a riff or a progression, and then I'll start to hear maybe a melodic idea that could go with it and try to put those together. Or sometimes it kind of comes all at once. I'll have like a melodic idea and an accompaniment that starts to form at the same time. Other times I won't even have the guitar, and I'll just hear something in my head, and I'll try to find it on the guitar and record it real quick so I don't forget it, things like that, you know. Or sometimes I'll go to the piano and put an idea on there just because it's a little more accessible right away. So sometimes I'll start there and then put it on the guitar.
Okay. So now I have a really annoying question for you. What is the worst thing about Andy McKee as a guitar player?
Oh, that's not very hard, and I'm not very shy about it. I'm really not good at improvising. That's not my strong suit at all. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. My brain just doesn't really work that way. You know, I can do it, but it's not cool. It's like, that was in key. That's good, but it's just not really the kind of musician I am, I guess. You know, I'm more of a write music as a piece. You know, that I guess you could say more I'm like a novelist than an orator or something. You know, some people can get up and just play and kill it, but I just write a sort of structure and then perform it. So I'm not very good at improvising. That's my weakness.
So that's the thing that makes you somehow different from other fingerstyle players, would you say?
Well, I think a lot of guys that are in this sort of style, this sort of more modern approach where we use all these different tunings and stuff, I mean, that's another thing. Half the time, or more than half, most of the time, our guitars are in weird tunings. And so if you ask us to sit down and improvise with someone, it's not really the easiest thing to do unless you know the whole fretboard in this new tuning. But I use like probably 50 different tunings, and I don't take the time to memorize the whole fretboard at all. I just compose these pieces of music in these unusual tunings and go from there. So I think, yeah, in this sort of approach, most guys, improvising isn't really their strong suit either, I'd say, but I could be wrong. But there are, I mean, there's players like Tommy Emmanuel, though. I mean, he can, and Richard Smith, and just so many guys that they pretty much play in standard tuning, and they're just mind-blowing. I mean, they can just sit down and improvise for hours, and it's like, my God, you know, your jaw is on the floor, and they're just killing it all over the place. So there are guys that do obviously improvise a lot, but I'm sure not one of them.
Okay, is there any song on this planet you can't play?
I don't think so, and I don't mean that to say. I think anybody, if they work hard enough, can play anything. That's just my mindset. So I think if I sat down and really worked hard at something, I could play it. But I'm not as determined as I used to be when I was younger to learn other people's songs, though. I'm more determined to write my own tunes now, so it's just not a big focus. But I mean, when I was younger, I used to sit down and try to learn all the tunes from Dream Theater to Eric Johnson to Joe Satriani, and then into the acoustic guitar. And I would really work on it hard, and eventually I could play those tunes. I think anybody can. It's just the way I approach it. I think if you work hard, you can do it.
Because I'm not sure if you know, are you aware of the fact that people learning your songs are getting really annoyed?
They're probably breaking. They're breaking many strings, probably, like the retuning all. But yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I know that, you know, some of my tunes are more difficult to play and all that. But I think most of it's all a state of mind, you know, trying to learn other people's music and trying to do anything difficult, you know. If it's something you want to do and you just kind of close off most other things, you know, you can really focus and achieve whatever you want. So, but I'm sorry if it's difficult.
Maybe a really quick lesson.
Sure. A quick lesson. Oh.
How do you tune right now? What's the tuning?
The tuning right now I have it in is well, it's a real common one, and if anyone's tried to learn drifting before, they know this one. Dadgad.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Tried to done that.
Yeah, this is a real common altered tuning, and it's a D suspended fourth chord. So you have a D on the low string, and it might not be 440. I don't know. This could be flat a bit, but a D, A, D, G, A, D. So it spells Dadgad from low to high. And yeah, when I went to start writing this tune, I just put it into Dadgad because it was one that I was sort of familiar with, because I discovered it through, I think it was actually from Led Zeppelin. I think they had maybe Kashmir's in Dadgad, I think. And then I heard about Pierre Ben-Suzanne, who's sort of the master of Dadgad tuning. He can improvise, and it's sort of his standard tuning is Dadgad. But anyway, that's the tuning there, and maybe I could just play a little bit and talk about how I came up with drifting. I mean, it was really inspired by the playing of Preston Reed in a big way. He was a guy that really pioneered doing a lot of percussion on the guitar, on the steel string acoustic guitar. Of course, percussion had been on flamenco, you know, from Spain on the nylon string, but really incorporating it on the steel string with melodic ideas and percussion at the same time. So I wanted to try to write a tune in that style that had that sort of approach. So I was playing over the top of the neck so I could hit the top of the guitar up here, and then doing some tapping for the melodic ideas. So it's just started out with, and then this slap harmonic, which the first time I'd ever heard or seen a slap harmonic, I was just like, what was that? You know, it's like out of nowhere you got this magical ringing. And so you just create a harmonic by slapping the strings right at the harmonic node. You can do 12 or 7 or 5 or even 9. That crazy one there. All those different ones. So I just put that right on the 4th beat. And 7 up there. And these little triplets here. You can also do 19, it's the same as 7, so you can do either one. So that was how it started, and then it was like, okay, how do I go from here? I need to develop some melodic ideas. So that's when I incorporated the tapping. Just like that.
Sweet.
So yeah, that's how it all started, you know. And I've actually got a guitar camp that I started 2 years ago, where I teach this kind of stuff, and I have 3 other instructors with me. This year, I even had Preston Reed come as an instructor, and Thomas Lieb and Craig DeAndrea. So anyway, you get a sort of well-rounded group of lessons, you know, from these different instructors, and I teach like how to play drifting and other things like that, really slow. And in fact, next year, since I'm taking some time off from touring so much, I'm going to do an instructional course on guitar playing that you can access online. It'll be with a company called TrueFire. So it'll be things like drifting and Rylan and all my tunes at about half the speed, you know, and like multiple angles, and hopefully that'll help with learning those tunes. So.
Okay, I need to ask you for some plans for the future. We're expecting a new album.
Yes, next year. In fact, yeah, that's why I'm taking that time off. So I'll be taking probably about 8 or 9 months off from really touring next year. I'll do occasional weekend shows, you know, in the States probably only, but I'll be focusing on finishing these compositions and recording them, and spending time with my wife and kids too. You know, I've been hitting the road pretty hard for 10 years now, so. It'll be good. So, but yeah, by the end of next year, there'll be a new full-length album.
Okay, and it's going to be anyhow different different than?
There'll probably be some. I'm looking at having some guests on a couple of songs, so maybe some electric guitar even, things like that. But it'll be mostly fingerstyle acoustic guitar, which I'm known for, and some harp guitar. I've got a few harp guitar pieces that will get finished and put on there too. So, yeah.
Okay, and the last question: what exactly do you gonna play tonight?
And
McKee's greatest hits.
Yeah, most, a lot of since it's my first time in Poland, there'll be a lot of the YouTube hits, of course, but some newer stuff also that was from like the Joyland album and the Mythmaker EP, which came out a couple years ago. So it'll be just kind of a mix, and actually I even started playing a few tunes from some of the guys that really inspired me, because I noticed that a lot of people don't even know about guys like Don Ross or Preston Reed or Billy McLaughlin or Michael Hedges. So I decided I really need to play at least one of their tunes at my show so people can see where I got inspired and check them out too. So there'll be a few of those tunes tonight as well.
Good luck with that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.